and welcome to Meet the Author, a show where we explore the world through the imagination of talented writers. On this show, we will talk with authors from Laurel, Prince George's County, the DMV, and beyond. Welcome to another episode of Laurel TV's Meet the Author. With COVID-19, education as we once knew it changed drastically. Teachers, students, and parents had to adapt to a new way of delivering and receiving instruction. However, as things changed, one thing remained the same. Literacy has and will continue to be the backbone of our education system. Today, we have Dr. Marquis Dwarte here to share with us his framework for instructional leadership, which focuses on the importance of literacy. Let's meet Dr. Dwarte. Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Great, great. Glad you can make it out. So we just want to start talking about your background a little bit. You have a very extensive educational and professional background that you want to share with everyone. So let's get started. You have a bachelor's degree in sociology from the University of Buffalo.
Yes,
so when you first started your studies, what were you thinking about studying, or career-wise, what did you want to do?
So I always knew I wanted to be in education. And from the early years and my early childhood, my parents, my grandparents pushed the importance of education. So I kind of knew ultimately that that's where I was going to end up. So I went to college for undergraduate. My first semester, kind of undecided, knew I was going to be in education at some point, but didn't know what I actually wanted to study in undergraduate. Took a sociology course. Sociology 101 is a prerequisite general education requirement, and actually absolutely enjoyed it. And just thought about the social cultural context of societies, how people are interrelate with one another, how that impacts communities, so on and so forth, and realized that while that was a pretty broad about society in general, it has some it was applicable, I should say, to education. So I said, I'm going to stick with this because I'm very interested in just learning more about people and communities and culture, knowing that at some point I was going to go back for a graduate degree related specifically to education and kind of combine the two of those degrees to be a good educator.
Makes sense. I started in sociology also, so I can definitely relate to the study of culture. But it's great that you took that a little bit further and decided to get into education. So you merged the education and the sociological aspect and went into counseling.
Yes.
And that's where you got your master's at
Yes.
McDaniel. So that's when you started to figure out kind of more what you wanted to do?
Yeah, so I went and got my master's degree in school counseling, counsel education, and then I went right into becoming a counselor and a teacher at a high school. That's where I started my career. So again, having that sociology background clearly helped me in the counsel education program, but also just helped me in terms of working in schools and school communities.
Right, and working with people, definitely.
Working with people, absolutely. Yes,
and then ultimately, you got your doctorate degree in education, leadership, and social policy at good old Morgan State.
Yep.
Go Bears.
Go Bears.
So now did that take a political spin for you, or how did that enhance your degree or work with it?
So I was told early on by a couple of mentors of mine that, obviously a doctorate degree in the field of education is kind of the ultimate education credential. And I was encouraged by some really good mentors and said, Marquis, you might want to consider doing a doctorate degree. It opened a lot of doors for you. You maybe not be thinking about what your future is going to look like now, being in your early or mid-20s, but if you do it now while you're young, you'll have opportunities down the road. So that was kind of the impetus of what led me to start researching programs. And then, I wanted to support an HBCU. Morgan State was close to where I lived at the time. So I enrolled in that particular program. Obviously, a focus on leadership, knowing that at some point I might want to elevate my career to leadership positions. And then the social policy twist was just having a focus, not just the leadership, but the policy that drives so many of the decisions we make, whether it's the social sector or in education. So just having an opportunity to study policy at that level and how it really shapes kind of your everyday lives in terms of what we do in education and in a broader society, I guess you would say.
Right. Sounds good. Like I said, you have that broad background in your education. And of course, you use that in your professional career.
Yes.
So we see that you've been a principal, you've been a supervisor of principals, and an adjunct professor. So is there anyone that you prefer more than the other, or?
I will tell you, hands down, the best job I had in my educational career was that of a high school principal.
Okay.
That was my hands down best job. Absolutely. The idea that you can shape and impact the lives of young people, and of course, principals at every level obviously have a tremendous impact on students and communities. But at the high school level, there's the caveat that you get to see the end result.
Okay.
And you're able to see those students walk in as squirrely little ninth graders and walk out 4 years later as young adults, graduating into the workforce or graduating into college. You know, the proms, the sporting events, being able to connect with students, and the extracurricular activities is really nice. So that's high school kind of brings all that together. And so I think that's why I felt that to be the best job I've had in education.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
that sounds good. Like it makes sense. You can see their full circle.
Absolutely.
Because I guess in middle school they're still kind of young.
Yes,
in middle school,
absolutely.
you don't see much of a change there.
No, not much.
Okay, understood. I have some teenagers at home, so I definitely understand the change there.
I've got one as well.
Okay, so just wanted to touch on this briefly. So throughout your tenure, so you've published works, and you've talked about things such as college and career readiness, like you mentioned, working with the high school students, school reform, where your policy comes in, and then student achievement. So tell us about where you've been published and different things that you've written about.
Yeah, so I think you've kind of talked through the areas, focus areas and topics that I've published on. I published in a couple of leadership magazines, periodicals that are issued by different education organizations. One of the most recent ones was an article I published focused on college and career readiness for urban students. And that was published in what's called the National Association of Secondary Schools Principals. They have a monthly magazine that's called Principal Leadership. So I did publish in there. I did do one on a publication, a manuscript, I should say, on school reform, looking particularly at African-American males. That was published in the Journal of Negro Education. And there's been a few other odds and ends publications that I've submitted. But those are probably the two most noteworthy, I guess you would say, in terms of being in relatively credible magazine with Principal Leadership, and then obviously the Journal of Negro Education out of Howard University. So
sounds good. I like your focus. Like it's good to see a black man, you know, educating other black men and talking about the education of black men. I think it's apropos. So with those publications, I guess your wheel started working and you wanted to think about a book. And you decided to publish your book.
Absolutely. So
the title of your book, Simple, Practical, Effective, A Framework for Literacy-Focused Instructional Leadership, the high school edition, since that's your favorite. So talk to us about that process. Like we mentioned that you were, you know, in other publications, but you decided to actually write a book. So what made you take that knowledge and put it into a full book form?
Again, I think it was the combination of all those experiences. And just realizing, you know, and having had experience at multiple levels of education. Obviously, I mentioned high school was probably the one that I favored the most, but I did spend some time at the elementary school and the middle school level as well as a school leader. And just realizing from as early as from kindergarten through 12th grade, even college as an adjunct instructor, you mentioned I do that as well, the power of literacy. And when we talk about things like the achievement gap, when we talk about things like the inequities we see between certain communities, whether it's racial divide, whether it's socioeconomic divide, the one constant I think is literacy, and the lack of access to literacy. And so it just, of all those experiences, it just at some point I started to realize that the real work for having an impact really resides with literacy and helping students understand the power of that and opening doors if you can read and if you can write, and if you're able and willing to do so. It just opens so many doors, college, career, and again, I'm just a big proponent that literacy is probably the single most important factor in determining someone's career or college prospects, and it's something I don't think we can ever overstate its importance.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that goes, it was part of my next question about the backbone, but that's, you know, the basis of your book. And I think, like you said, literacy is very important. It's that groundbreaking, that foundation that you need to build upon.
Absolutely.
And so if you have that great foundation, it's a good place to start. So in your book, you have your core four. So we don't want to give it all away because we want people to buy the book.
Absolutely.
But if you could just share briefly to give them a taste of what's in your book, what your core four are.
Sure. So the book starts with just a broad conversation about leadership and focusing on these four themes or four components that you just remarked about. You know, the first and foremost, most prominent being people. Focusing on people. And it doesn't matter what industry or organization you're leading, you do have to have a focus on your people. Treating them with dignity and respect, growing and developing them. But you can't stop there. Because people need, you know, having a group of really committed, dedicated people is certainly a start. But those people need a very clear purpose. something that unifies them as a collective group, focus their energy and attention in one direction. So we go from people to having a clear purpose. And with that purpose, or you can say goals, you need a plan. So then we have a group of people that are committed. We have a very clear purpose and goals that's kind of unifying us and giving us some singularity of purpose. What's our plan to get there? And then the fourth piece of it is what I call just persistence.
Okay.
Staying the course. I think too often people don't commit. We lack discipline. So we have the right people, we have a clear purpose, and we even have a really good plan. But then it comes down to your ability to persist and show the discipline it takes to make the type of change that you're hoping for. To not lose sight of the broader goal, to just focus and be committed. And that, I just say it's persist. Somewhat of a pun, I guess you would say, or I guess it's alliteration. It's alliteration. Just to play on P's. But it's, having the people, establishing a purpose, developing a plan, and then just persisting. And as a leader, I think part of your job is to just focus everyone and stay on message.
Sounds good. So we have that plan or that information in the book, but then you have action planning. You have things for people to do, which I love. Absolutely. I like to be interactive, like tell me something, but then let me do it. So what made you just add that element to the book?
Just in terms of my own background as an educator, in terms of the conversations I've had with hundreds of teachers that I've worked with or supervised and other principals and other district level leaders, we always talk about, unfortunately, a lot of the literature that comes out in our field gets bogged down in the theory, the theory of education, with little practicality or little opportunity for it to be very pragmatic. And so I think, one of the things that education I was looking for is, you can tell me the theory, but then guide me how to do it.
Right.
How is it practical? How can I read this book and then use this book as a resource to then start taking steps and developing my plan? And so I just wanted to put forth that because I thought that was the practical aspect of the book. Of course, the title of the book is Simple, Practical, Effective, and really trying to drive home the practicality of picking up a book, understanding the theory behind some of the ideas that are being put forth, but then at the same time realizing that you have a template, you have a framework to move this work forward in a very practical, pragmatic manner. And I think educators and probably people in a lot of industries value that. So that was the theory behind, I don't want to just spend too much time with the theory. We got to spend some time showing people how the work can be done and some key takeaways that they can replicate or that they can use as a framework to kind of just build on.
Right. It's very practical. Like it makes sense because, like you said, a lot of theory. Just read.
Absolutely.
It's time to get the work done, right?
Absolutely.
Sounds like a plan. So, who would you say would be your target audience? I know you're an educator. What would be your target audience for this book? Yeah,
I really think it works for K through 12 educators, teachers, assistant principals, and even district level leaders. Obviously, when we get to the final portion of the book where we get into kind of the action planning and the actual resources, they tend to be a little more focused at the high school level.
Okay.
But I think there is some practicality where you can use some of the guiding questions and some of the just thought processes and the intentionality. You can still apply that to other levels.
Okay.
But I think the first half of the book is very much applicable to anyone in K-12 education. And like we said, as we get to the latter stages of the book and you start looking at some of the actual resource documents, very, very exclusive and easy to use for high school. Middle and elementary could use kind of the same, like I said, logic and framework and deduce some plans related to the goals that they're trying to achieve at that particular level or those particular levels.
So, we'll get it to all educators to help with their framework. All right. So, what is your main goal? What would you like to accomplish with this book ultimately?
It's somewhat altruistic in nature in that I didn't write the book to become a millionaire, although I'm not going to knock that. If anybody wants to sign me up, I'll take the money. But no, it was never really about money or even marketing myself as much as it was just about, I've been fortunate to have some really good experiences, some really good career mentors, and have, not by my own work, but by the work of the people who have surrounded me, had a relatively successful run as an educator. And I've learned some good things along the way, so I feel like it's kind of like pay it forward.
Okay.
And so there's things that I've learned been fortunate enough to learn that I would like to be able to share forward with other people who are doing similar work, and so they can use this as a stepping stone to build on and do even better work. So really just about feeling like I had some good experiences. I've worked with a multitude of just really good people that I've learned from, that helped shape my thinking, that helped shape what you're reading in this book, and just like to just share that information. Just as, a matter of, here's some things I learned and put it out to people to see if they can learn something based on what I learned.
Sounds good. It's definitely appreciated. A lot of good information in the book. Like you said, because you have the extensive background. So I believe that, it's a lot of information that you said people can share through all levels of education. So we hope they pick up your book. So now we can breathe a sigh of relief. We're going to move on now to our game, the Unscramble game. I just want to have a little bit of fun with you before we leave. Real quick, we want to take a break or we're good? So the game is going to be Unscramble. I'm going to show you a jumbled up word. And it is words based on your book, so it's not just words out there. And you have 10 brief seconds to tell me the right word.
All right. So is there like a high score I'm going for? Is there?
Of course. It's about 7, so you got to get all 7 right.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So this is your first word.
I don't have that one.
Okay, it's up on the screen.
What is that?
Okay, you ready for the next one? You 0 for 1.
All right.
Ready for the next? 0 for 0.
Okay. I got this one.
Okay.
Can I speak now? Right? Simple.
All right. Okay. See, all of them are hard. Here's your next one. Number 3.
Ooh, hi. Up on screen.
Answer for number 3.
Bam.
All right, we'll go to number 4. You have the answer for number 4.
Whoa. Author.
Come on, Marquis. Come on.
I wish the viewers could see what I'm looking at, because this is not as easy as people might think it is. These words are jumbled up pretty good.
Okay. Number 5. Answer for number 5.
I don't have it. Practical, okay.
Okay, let's see. This might be, I don't know. Clue number 6.
All right. I have this one already. I'm listening to suspense build for a second or two.
All right.
This one, I believe, is effective.
All right. Answer for number 6. Good job. All right, last one.
All right, I got this one as well.
Okay, you ready? You go ahead.
This one is literacy.
All right, that's a good one. Good job. So thank you for playing along.
No, thank you. That was interesting.
And I've mixed those up myself. So again, thank you for coming in, sharing your knowledge of your book, the simple, practical, effective ways, a framework for literacy-focused instructional leadership, the high school edition, your information that you have, that you've learned, and that you've shared throughout the years. We definitely appreciate it. So can you just share with us your contact information and how one can get a copy of your book?
Yeah, absolutely. Contact information would be, easiest way to reach me would be to just reach me through my website. It's www.strategicEducationSolutions.com. If you log onto that website, obviously you can reach me through that. There will also be a link on that particular website to purchase the book. And there's some more information on that website as well as other places you can purchase the book. So again, www.strategicEducationSolutions.com.
All right. So thank you again for showing up today. Again, we appreciate all the information. Look forward to more information from you because you have a wealth of information. We look forward to you continuing to share it with us.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank
Thanks for having
you.
me.
The book, Simple, Practical, Effective, a framework for literacy-focused instructional leadership, high school edition, is exactly what it claims to be. It is an easy-to-understand, real-world guide used to help educators establish or refine instructional techniques, all focused around literacy. It is a great resource for those working on a plan for instructional improvement, and it provides a barometer or a measuring stick of progress for those who may already have a plan. So educators, be sure to pick one up to have it in your resource collection. Here are a few benefits of writing an academic book. It allows authors to share the knowledge and expertise they've acquired over time. It also allows authors to reach a wider audience across a different medium. It provides professional advancement, and it helps to elevate your career by showcasing your expertise in a particular area. And it affords authors another revenue stream, another way to make some additional money. So these are just a few of the benefits of writing an academic book. For more information about all things writing and publishing, visit www.publishing.jmediagroup.net. I would like to thank Dr. Dwarte for joining me today and for sharing his educational knowledge and expertise. Because he has spent many years in the education system in different capacities, I'm sure the information that he offers can only help and enhance the great instructional leadership that educators already strive to provide. If you are an author and would like to be featured on our program, you can send an email to cmjohnson@laurel.md.us or call 301-725-5300, extension 2110. We would love to have you on the show. I'm Christine Johnson, reminding you to open a book and let it take you on your next adventure.